Thank you, Chief Whip. Votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28 March 2017. Page 1325. One three two six. One three two seven. One three two eight. One three one three two nine. Distinguished colleagues, votes and proceedings, page 1329. Page 1330. On page 1331. Senator Umar Kurfi, Katsina Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Umar Ibrahim Kurfi, representing Katsina Central. I rise to move that we adopt the vote in proceedings of Wednesday, 28th March. I so move. Thank you very much.
Senator Saliu Ahmed Ogembe, Kogi Central.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion that the vote and proceedings for Tuesday, 28th March 2017, I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28th of March 2017 is hereby approved, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28th March 2017 is hereby approved. Announcements. Letter from Mr. President. Dear distinguished Senate President, confirmation of ministerial nominees. In accordance with section 147(2) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, I have the honor to forward the underlisted ministerial nominees for confirmation of the Senate. 1. Stephen Ikanyo Ucheni, Professor, Kogi State. 2. Suleiman Zama Hassan, Gombe State. Copies of their curriculum vitae are attached herewith. It is my hope that this exercise will receive the usual kind expeditious consideration of the distinguished members of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please accept, Mr. Senate President, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Letter from Senator Abu Ibrahim and Senator Mustafa Bukar. Wedding notification. Aisha Mustafa Bukar and Ibrahim Abu Ibrahim. It's a pleasure to inform Your Excellency and our distinguished colleagues that our children, Aisha Mustafa Bukar and Ibrahim Abu Ibrahim, will be getting married on Saturday, the 28th April 2017, at the Emir's Palace, Daura, by 11 a.m. There will be a reception in their honor at the Palace and Daura Motel by 12 noon. As a mark of our special relationship, we shall be honored with your presence and our distinguished colleagues to share with us in the joy of the occasion. However, in the event you are unable to attend, please remember the new couple in your prayers for a blessed, fruitful, and peaceful marriage. On behalf of our families, we thank you very much in anticipation of the honor and accept the assurances of our high esteem. Signed, Senator Abu Ibrahim and Senator Mustafa Bukar. What do you call this? Let me wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Peniel Children Academy, Kubwa, Abuja. Staff and students of Destiny Kiddies International Academy, Dakwa, Abuja, who are in the gallery to observe our proceedings. I wish them a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. Please sit down. petitions? Yes, Senator Mwawabana.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Arukwe Ohuabunwa, representing the entire people of Abia North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to present these three petitions from my constituents. One is from Mr. and Dr. Mrs. Ogamba, not Ogembe, please, against the customs. This petition is to bring to the knowledge and notice of the Senate that while they were driving on the way in Calabar, the Lexus RX 330 vehicle they bought from a registered dealer for about a year now, they were stopped by the customs on search and they presented all their documents, but unfortunately, after presentation and of the documents and explanation, the customs went ahead and impounded this vehicle and they presented the documents, but as they speak, the vehicle is still in the custody of the customs. So they are asking the Senate to please ensure that justice is done to bring customs to release their vehicle because they have all the documents. They are not dealers. They bought it from the dealer. That is number one, Mr. President. Number two is from another constituent, Chidi Waha, who is alleging wrongful dismissal by the police and is asking the Senate to please intervene and ensure that justice is done, that he be recalled back to his job. Then finally, Mr. President, this is a petition from a distinguished professor of more than 30 years standing, who is alleging his wrongful dismissal by the University of Nigeria and Nsukka. This Professor E.U. Imaga, a distinguished professor. So, Mr. President, he's asking the Senate to look into this case and ensure education and ensure that justice is done. Mr. President, may I seek your permission to lay these petitions?
Yes, come and lay the petition. Come and lay it here. Petitions refer to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Petitions? Many petitions? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Ben Wajumogu. I represent the good and hospitable people of Imo North. I have this petition from the Berekete family. It's titled Request for Urgent Intervention for Justice over the death of Mr. Desmond Nunugo in custody of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. This petition seeks the intervention of the Senate in resolving issues arising from the death of my constituent Desmond Nunugo, who died in EFCC custody sometime last year. Mr. President, it will interest you to note that today the National Hospital and the Nigerian Police are yet to allow the family to appoint a pathologist to conduct autopsy on the corpse of Mr. Nunugo, and up to today his corpse is still lying in the mortuary. It seeks your intervention, and if you permit me, Mr. President, I'd like to present the petition.
Okay, Senator Benjamin, we will come and lay the petition. Petitions refer to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate. Yes, point of order, Baraj Jibril.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Baraj Jibril. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 43. With your permission, I read as follows.
Go ahead.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, you may recall that yesterday you gave me the opportunity to come under the same order in order to report to this august Senate an incorrect story that appeared on the front page of the Daily Trust indicating that 13 Helios vehicles were found in my house and my house was sealed. Of course, I said it loud and clear that that story was false, and I was surprised that that story came up in the Daily Trust newspaper. And today, the Daily Trust has retracted that story on page 5 of today's edition. With your permission, Mr. President, may I read that portion? It said in our story, in our story, Customs impounds Senator 13 vehicles, which appeared in the Daily Trust of Tuesday, March 28, 2017. We inadvertently say the house in which the vehicles were impounded belonged to Senator Barrow Jibril. We hereby retract that part of the story and apologize to the senator. Mr. President, even though the apology or the correction appeared on page 5 instead of front page, I hereby accept the apology. And I say so because, as I said earlier, or as you all know, we are all human beings. Daily Trust is an entity and it can make mistake. And it's always good when you make a mistake, you accept that you made a mistake and apologize. And they've exactly done so. I'm coming. And I will also call on them today that they should repeat this apology on the front page, because this matter did not only affect me, it affected the entire Senate. It was the integrity of the whole Senate that was put to test. But I want to say that they've done the right thing by showing humility in a way that they've just apologized. I've said it earlier that I hold Daily Trust with the highest regard, because an entity that we all look up to for good news coverage, particularly in the other part of the country. So I want to urge them not to allow this kind of thing to happen again, because it's not good for their image. And I know from the discussion we had yesterday with some of them, with the editor, this will not happen again. And I want to say finally that I want to thank the Senate President, and I want to thank my colleagues for their support. And it shows that we are one and the same. And the way the Senate came and supported me yesterday, particularly Senate President, is what is supposed to be done when each and everyone here is touched. Each and everyone here his integrity is being put to test for no reason. So we should rally around to work together, and that is just exactly the way it was shown yesterday. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, as you all know, according to our rules, there can be no debate on this matter. It is a good development that Daily Trust has swiftly apologized, because as we all know, that it was not just your integrity, but the integrity of the institution, because the way the story was done was even inciting in giving the kind of level of irresponsibility of a senator. I'm happy to see that they've retracted that and apologized. But as you rightly also observed, the apology too should have come in the front page in the same manner, because how many people will read the third page or fifth page, whatever page it was done. But as I always say, it is work in progress. We must continue to defend the institutions, because it's not about you, it's about the institution, and as such, that the fact that they've apologized and you've accepted it, I think we can put that matter to rest. Leader of the Senate. Yeah, point of order, Deputy Leader.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Bala Ibn Allah, representing Kebbi South, and the Deputy Senate Leader. Mr. President, I'm coming under Order 15, 16, and 18 of our...
Yeah, go ahead.
Order 15. Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that a contempt of breach of privilege has been committed, or referring the matter to the Committee on Ethics and Privilege. But if the matter is raised in the Committee of the Whole, the Senate, the chairman shall leave the chair to report progress. Mr. President, Order 16 says, when a matter of privilege at any time arises, the President shall, until the matter is disposed of, or unless the debate on a motion therein is adjourned, suspend the consideration, decision of every other question, provided that President over other business shall not be given to any motion. If in the opinion of the President of the Senate, a prima facie case of breach of privilege has not been made out, or the matter has not been raised at the earliest opportunity. Mr. President, Order 18, in specifics, says, any senator complaining to the Senate of a statement in a newspaper, book, or other publication as breach of privilege shall produce a copy of the newspaper, book, or publication. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, today, the 29th day of March, 2017, the Punch newspaper, in particular, page 8 of the paper, titled, Sagi, others kick as Senate puts up rec confirmation over Magu. The specific provision I'm complaining of, Mr. Chairman and my distinguished colleagues, he said, order. The paper read, but the chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Professor Ise Sagi, SAL, described the Senate action as calling on Buhari to sack Magu in 2 weeks as childish and irresponsible. Sege told one of our correspondents in a telephone interview that the Senate was filled with people of questionable character who put their personal interests ahead of that of the nation. Mr. President, there is no dispute as to the fact that today, distinguished Senator Nala is a senator. Now, if somebody in the standing of Professor Sege will make this comment, it means this Senate is under obligation to invite distinguished senators, Sege, to come and name the questionable people that fill this Senate. It's very important at this stage of our political development. It's very, very important. And two, let me say, with the greatest respect, that if knowing fully well, Mr. President, if due diligence has been done in respect of who the person and personality of Professor Sege is, I am absolutely sure that he will not have been appointed in that position. But let me say, with due respect, that I, Bala Ibn Allah, am not a person of questionable integrity. Let me equally say that no senator here is a person of questionable integrity. Mr. Distinguished colleague and Mr. President, If you look up there, that is distinguished Senator Jeremiah Husseini. He spent the best part of his life serving this country. At a stage, he was almost going to be the president of this country, with the greatest respect. So for somebody in a Sesege's position to come and call this Senate is irresponsible and that childish and that people of questionable character, it behoves on this Senate to call upon him to appear before the Ethics and Privileges Committee to say, because we came here by name, he should name. Nigerians are entitled to know, and we should know, on the basis of that. We will argue about this matter here and there. But in conclusion, let me say, Mr. President, that the public will have the benefit of knowing where the irresponsibility lies. And I hope I have made my point. Thank you very much.
Yes, leader. Yeah, please, yeah, come on, lady paper.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I stand up to speak with very profound sense of responsibility and duty. So I believe that if there is anything this administration needs, is cordiality in relationship between the legislature and the executive. It therefore behoves every presidential aide, from ministers to the least in the ladder, to behave responsibly, to encourage and sustain a very cordial relationship between the National Assembly and the administration. Mr. President, we are elected. We are elected people, just like the president is an elected president. The Nigerian public has every right to criticize us, call us to order where we err, proffer suggestions, and weigh out where they think we need that. But I take special and serious exception when a presidential aide, instead of trying to bring people together, the two sides of government, would speak in this manner that is so divisive and necessarily creating tensions between the two arms of government and dragging and pulling down this administration from achieving those very noble and laudable campaign promises. I therefore take this opportunity to advise presidential aides, if you have to speak, when you have to speak, if you must, please speak that language that will bring the executive and the legislature into some serious understanding for us to achieve what Nigerians need most. We are not above board, and I want to emphasize this. Nigerians have the right because they brought us here, but a presidential aide hasn't got that right. He hasn't. He can only proffer suggestions on the way out. I therefore believe that what the deputy leader has raised is serious, is fundamental, and I hope it will be an eye-opener and a lesson to those who have not said anything yet and who are advised not to say at all. Thank you.
Senator Peter Wabushi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Peter Wabushi. I represent the good people of Aniama of Delta, North of Delta State. Mr. President, I want to create three scenarios so that this Senate will be able to understand the person we are talking of, and for us to know whether there is any need at all to invite him. Mr. President, if you remember last year,
when the Supreme Court of Nigeria, gave a ruling in a matter before the Supreme Court, stating proceeding and action. Professor Sage came out and cast aspersions on the judges of the Supreme Court and said everything he wanted to say about the judges of the Supreme Court that sat in that panel. The Nigerian Bar Association, then under Barrister Lege, SAN, came out to apologize on behalf of Nigerian Bar Association. He took on Nigerian Bar Association. He said all sorts of things about Nigerian Bar Association. The same Professor Sage, when he was a professor of law in University of Benin, and a woman, Professor Alele Williams, was appointed a Vice Chancellor of University of Benin from Delta State. Professor Ise Sage, with two other professors, became intransigent and tried to pull down the administration of this woman because a woman was appointed a Vice Chancellor, the first woman Vice Chancellor in Nigeria. And that led to the government then of Ibrahim Babangida to sack him, and the other two. That is another Professor Sage. The same Professor Sage, when he was asked to deliver a speech in Delta State after the creation of Delta State, he said that the good people of Delta North, who I represent, that they far that we have a state capital, we are therefore we are not right to aspire to the position of governorship of Delta State. What am I saying? I want to appeal. This is his trademark. And like my friend has said, if they had done some screening about him, there wouldn't have been any need, they would not have appointed him. He doesn't strive in where there is peace. His best is when there is confusion and trouble and create problems everywhere. That's why I've created 3 scenarios when he was 3 issues I brought before. I want to appeal. Let us not waste our time on Professor Sage. Let us face more important issues, national issues, than to talk about Professor Sage, because it will continue. If a man at the age almost 80 years, if not more than 80, is behaving like that, it is trademark. You cannot change it now. I want to appeal to my distinguished senators. Let us just leave him. It is his trademark. And those who appointed him, if they decide to be bringing him, he will continue to cause trouble, cause confusion, and that is his trademark. That is my submission, Mr. Chairman.
Distinguished colleagues, I think this matter will be referred to ethics and privileges and report back in 4 weeks. I will leave ethics and privileges to look into the matter. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the consideration of the report of the parliamentary visit of the President of the Senate to Berlin in Germany. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, we recall that the report of the committee was laid yesterday, Tuesday, 28 March 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Abaribe to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Abaribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My very distinguished and worthy colleagues, my name is Einaya Baribe, and I represent Abia South. May I crave your indulgence to put before you the report of the official visit of the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, to Germany, to Berlin in Germany from 8th to 10th March 2017. Introduction. I have the report. Everybody has a report, yes, I believe. Everybody has a report, yes.
Does everybody have the report?
You have the report, yeah. Following the invitation of the President of the Bundesrat, that is the Federal Council in Germany, MS Malo Dreyer, to the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I hereby submit the following report. The Bundesrat is one of the 5 constitutional bodies in Germany and is referred to as the Parliament of the governments of the federal states of Germany. The federal states participate in legislation and administration of the federation through the Bundesrat, or the Federation Council. The Bundesrat is the equivalent of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The invitation was as a result of parliamentary diplomatic effort agreed during the 4th World Conference of Speakers of Parliaments in New York in September 2015, and the subsequent visit of the President of Germany to Nigeria on the 8th of February 2016, wherein a parliamentary exchange visit towards deepening bilateral ties between Germany and Nigeria was endorsed. The visit also presented an opportunity to raise awareness on legislative milestones of the 8th National Assembly as contained in the legislative agenda, and to reinforce German support for the Nigerian government in the areas of infrastructural development, agriculture, energy, education, security, and improved governance, as well as to attract investments to Nigeria at this time of economic recession.
Senator, I'm sure if you can give us an abridged report and then go directly to the recommendations. Thank you.
The members of the delegation, of course, included the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, the Senate Deputy Majority Leader, Ibn Nala, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Musumono, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Defense, Senator Abubakar Kayari, and my humble self, the Chairman of the Committee of Power and Steel Development. Distinguished colleagues, if we go to page 9, we would have the conclusion of the visit and the comments and the recommendations therein. The meeting of the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the President of the Federal German Parliament underscored the long-standing and warm diplomatic relations between both countries. At the conclusion of the visit, both sides agreed to sustain the parliamentary cooperation and visits in order to deepen our bilateral relations. The two leaders resolved to work together in order to promote partnership in various sectors of the economy. This visit is the first of its kind by any Nigerian Senate President and I can assure you that it was very fruitful. It afforded the delegation an opportunity to assure the German authorities of our government's determination to create a favorable environment for foreign direct investments into Nigeria. The delegation also used the visit to assuage the fears militating against foreign direct investments. The President of the Senate's intervention on the removal of irregular migrants of Nigerian nationality was timely and will help to strengthen the cooperation on migration between Nigeria and Germany. The responses from the German authorities indicated the conviction, their conviction of business opportunities in Nigeria and their willingness to encourage German companies to invest in the economy. In addition, there is also a parliamentary friendship group that is in existence in the German Bundestag, headed by a certain Mr. Charles Huber. The recommendations are as follows, distinguished colleagues, that the Senate should consolidate on the parliamentary visit and invite the President of the German Bundesrat, which is an equivalent of the Senate, to reciprocate the visit. That the Senate should urge the federal government to lend support to the Senate's passionate push to elicit commitment from Germany to support Nigeria with more military equipment to eliminate the remnants of the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast. That the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs and Defense are urged to liaise with the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Defense to resolve the issue of procuring a chancery in Germany to accommodate both the defense section and to be at the same place with the Foreign Affairs section. That the Senate is urged to set up a Nigerian-Germany parliamentary friendship group, just like we have the Nigerian-Germany parliamentary group in the Bundesrat. And that the Senate should engage the Minister of Foreign Affairs to dispose the Nigerian Chancery, which has been left vacant for over 17 years. That the Senate, through the Committee on Foreign Affairs, should engage the Presidency to ensure that among the recently cleared ambassadors, that a seasoned diplomat with lots of experience be posted to be the ambassador of Nigeria in Germany. And that the committee should embark on investigation of the purported mass removal of 12,000 Nigerians in Germany and explore on behalf of helpless Nigerians the means to access European and German funds for skill development and capacity building for foreigners in Germany. That the Senate should also send an official letter of appreciation to the German authorities and the Bundesrat to thank them for the warm reception and assure them of our willingness to work with them. Finally, that this Senate should consider effective oversight over some of the key issues raised by the German authorities, such as economic policy consistency and harmonization of agencies at the ports and other matters that arose. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Barbe. If any comments, we can just go to the recommendations on the... Recommendation 1, that the Senate should consolidate on the parliamentary visit and invite the President of the German Bundesrat to reciprocate the visit. Those in favor of recommendation 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that the Senate should urge the federal government to lend support to the Senate's passionate push to elicit commitment from Germany to support Nigeria with more military equipment to eliminate the dregs of the Boko Haram insurgents in the Northeast. Those in favor of recommendation 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 3, urge the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs and Defense to liaise with the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Defense to resolve the issue of procuring a property for the Chancellery to accommodate defense section. Those in favor of recommendation 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 4, for the Senate to set up a Nigeria-Germany Parliamentary Friendship Group. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 5 is for the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs to engage the Federal Minister of Foreign Affairs on disposing the Nigerian Chancellery in Bonn, which has been left vacant for over 17 years. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Other recommendations for the Foreign Affairs to engage presidencies to ensure that one of the best hands diplomat and lots of experience be posted to serve as ambassadors to Germany. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And last, and recommendations 5C, embark on investigation on the purported mass removal of 12,000 Nigerians in Germany and explore on behalf of the helpless Nigerians in Germany the means to access the European and German funds for skill and capacity building for foreigners in Germany. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And then to send an official letter of appreciation to German authorities and Bundesrat, thanking them for their warm reception and assuring them of our willingness to work with them. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And finally, the Senate should consider effective oversight over some of the key issues raised by German authorities, such as economic policy consistency and normalization of agencies at the port. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any other recommendations? If not, distinguished colleagues, let me use the opportunity to say that the general outlook from the visit was that the country of Germany were very keen to work with us, work with Nigeria, and see the opportunity of what is happening in Europe and the Brexit as a time to improve bilateral relationships. And I think it to be good for us in the legislative to give support to the executive as they continue to engage countries like Germany, improving our relationship. And also on the issue of migration, this is something that's very, very important, that I believe at the parliamentary level we can do that, to see how we can work with Germany to ensure we can address this in a cordial manner. And of course, the formation of a friendship group, Nigeria-Germany Parliamentary Friendship Group, will set that up immediately. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the consideration of the report, of the long-awaited report of the parliamentary visit of the President of the Senate to Rabat and Dakhla, Morocco. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid yesterday, Tuesday, 28 March 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Abdullah Adamu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report.
Senator Abdullah Adamu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am Senator Dr. Abdullah Adamu, I represent National West Authorities. This is a report on the visit of the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, to Rabat and Kila, Morocco, for parliamentary meetings and to attend the Grand Montana Forum on Africa and South-South cooperation from the 16th to the 18th of March 2017. Introduction. Following the invitation of the President of the Senate of Morocco, His Excellency Mr. Abdel Hakim Benchmark, and a subsequent invitation from Pierre Emmanuel Queen, the President of Crans Montana Forum, to His Excellency the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, to visit Morocco on a parliamentary visit to Rabat, Morocco, and to deliver the keynote speech and receive international award at the Crans Montana Forum on Africa and South-South cooperation. Approval was given to embark on the trip between the 16th and 18th of March 2017. The first part of the trip was a parliamentary visit to Rabat, Morocco, on March the 16th. And the second part was to deliver the keynote address at the 2017 Crans Montana Forum on Africa and South-South cooperation, so the March the 17th, during which the President of the Senate will receive an internationally organized award of Prix de la Foundation on March the 18th. Following the state visit of the King of Morocco, His Royal Highness King Mohammed VI, to Nigeria in December 2016, there was need to further strengthen relationships between the two countries, hence the invitation from the President of the Senate of the Kingdom of Morocco. The forum is under the high patronage of His Majesty King Mohammed VI of Morocco, who has recently visited Nigeria to sign over 20 strategic bilateral memorandums of understanding covering the agricultural, oil, and gas sectors. Therefore, the participation of the President of the Senate further strengthened the economic relationship between Nigeria and Morocco. The delegates was led by His Excellency Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, Senator Philip Aduda, Deputy Minority Whip, Senator Albert Akpan, Senator Bukar Abba Ibrahim, Senator Dino Melay. The following table summarizes, you all have...
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Abdullah, if you can also try and abridge the report so that, I'm going to go to the recommendations.
Parliamentary cooperation. Moroccan parliamentary leaders are calling for a Northwest Regional Parliamentary Forum, that's regional bloc, plus Asia, to share experiences, best practices, learn from each other, and provide technical assistance to each other within the framework of South-South cooperation. There was also a call for the establishment of a Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group within the National Assembly, with the objective of working together with its counterpart, which already exists in Morocco, to ensure collective support to both the Nigerian and Moroccan authorities to implement the bilateral economic agreement signed between both countries, as well as any other future obligation of mutual interest. Both leaders of Parliament assured each other of instituting the Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group with the objective of being the working platform for actualizing the implementation of the bilateral memorandum of understanding signed between Nigeria and Morocco in 2016. Conclusion, I respectfully wish to conclude that the trip to Morocco was very successful. For the first time, the Nigeria and Moroccan Parliament agreed to work together through parliamentary cooperation to support their executive governments to realize the implementation of the bilateral memorandum of understanding signed in 2016. The visit, which was the first of its kind between the parliaments of Nigeria and Morocco, afforded the President of the Senate of Nigeria and his delegation the opportunity to assure Moroccan authorities of government's determination to create a favorable environment for bilateral trade between both countries and other African countries. A recommendation that the Senate congratulates the President of the Senate, His Excellency Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, for winning the Crans Montana 2017 Prix de la Foundation Award. The relevant Senate committees follow up on the oversight of bilateral agreements signed between Nigeria and Morocco, particularly the Trans-Sahara Gas Pipeline project that will pass through Morocco to Europe. That Senate set up a Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group and call upon African parliamentary leadership to use legislative frameworks to ease process of doing business among themselves so as to increase trade within Africa. For the consolidation of the parliamentary visit, the President of the Senate should invite the President of the Moroccan Parliament to reciprocate the visit. I so submit. Yes.
Thank you. Any comments before I go to? Yes, Senator Philip.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Distinguished Senator Philip Tanimu Aduda. Mr. President, I was part of this delegation to Morocco. And Mr. President, worthy of notice, the Prix de la Foundation Awards 2017 that was given to you, which is reserved for heads of government of various countries and presidents of various countries. And particular of note was the award was once given to the former president of the United States of America, President Obama, and Secretary General of the United Nations. I want to say that we were put on the world map and on the spot when you were given this award because you indeed made Nigeria proud. So I want to, on behalf of myself, my distinguished colleagues here, congratulate you, Mr. President, distinguished Senator Bukola Saraki, for this wonderful award. It is indeed as a result of your stewardship when you were governor and how you managed agriculture in your state. And they did mention that while they were giving you this award. So, Mr. President, on behalf of the Senate, I congratulate you on that. And also, Mr. President, the Moroccan government is really eager to do business and to work with us and to develop our economy. And this was also evident in the fact that the president was also always talking to the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, even while he was in the UK. And even while we were in Morocco, they mentioned to us that there were conversations between the two presidents on bilateral cooperation. And I want to encourage that we also ensure that the project for gas pipeline is carried out to the latter to ensure that this brings about economic cooperation within the sub-region. And they're also eager to go back to be members of ECOWAS, and I think that we can also use this medium and forum to support them more so that we might be forming a parliamentary group that we can be discussing on various parliamentary issues and ensuring that the 14 bilateral agreements that were signed between us and them, the federal government, it's brought to fruition. And also probably invite the parliament from Morocco to also visit so that we can collaborate and ensure that there's economic development in Africa. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, we'll go to the recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the Senate do congratulate the President of the Senate for the winning of the Cans Montana 2017 Prix de la Foundation Award. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, that relevant Senate committees follow up on the oversight of bilateral agreements signed between Nigeria and Morocco, particularly the Trans-Sahara Gas Pipeline project that will pass from Morocco to Europe. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, the Senate set up a Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, call upon African parliamentary leadership to use legislative framework to ease processes of doing business amongst themselves so as to increase trade within Africa. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And last prayer for consolidation of parliamentary visit. The President of the Senate should invite the President of the Moroccan Parliament to reciprocate this visit. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional recommendation? Distinguished colleagues, once again, let me thank all those who were part of this visit, and also emphasize that what we saw was a desire of Morocco to integrate not only into Africa. They've just joined the AU, they're now looking to join to ECOWAS, and they're very keen, knowing the role of Nigeria, to work closely with us. Already the King of Morocco has developed a good relation with the President, and following that is when they set up their own friendship group in the Parliament. I believe that to be useful once we set that as up, and also to ensure oversight that some of the bilateral agreements that were signed at that time are fully implemented. I thank you. Let me also use this opportunity to please also appeal to our colleagues that once we go on any of these trips, no matter how brief the reports are, we can bring them and lay them and be able to brief our colleagues on some of the events, and I think it will help us a lot in going forward in doing this. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Oluchukwu Ulasi, Esquire and Associate, on behalf of the family of late Arerebo Dressman against the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, alleged brutal killing of Arerebo Dressman by officials of the company. B, petition from Corporal Maxwell Biba Kedom, retired against Nigerian Army, over his non-inclusion in the payroll of the Directorate of the Military Pensions Board after retirement. And C, Law Right Associates against the Department of Parks and Recreation, Federal Capital Territory Administration, for alleged unlawful conversion and reallocation of a green area park plot at Guzape, Abuja. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that these reports were laid on Thursday, 16th March 2017, Thursday, 11th November 2016, and Wednesday, 20th July 2016, respectively. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samuel Anyanwu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Samuel Anyanwu. I represent Imo East in Imo State. Mr. President, with the leave of the Senate, I move that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committees on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Olochukwu Olasi Esquire, an associate on behalf of the family of late Arerebo Dressman against the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company for alleged brutal killing of Arerebo Dressman by officials of the company. B, petition from Corporal Maxwell Bibakedo, retired, against the Nigerian Army over his non-inclusion in the payroll of the Directorate of Military Pensions Board after retirement. And C, petition by Law Right Associates against the Department of Parks and Recreation, Federal Capital Territory Administration. I so move.
Senator Binta Masi Garba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleague. My name is Binta Masi Garba, representing Adamawa North Senatorial Zone. I stand to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman Committee, Senate Committee on Ethics and Privilege. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privilege and Public Respect and Petition in respect of the petitions already mentioned by the Senate Chairman on Ethics. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Sam Anyang, present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, my name is Senator Sam Anyang. I represent Imo East, Imo State. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 14 December 2016, rising on Order 41, Senator Dino Melaya Kogi West drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from Oluchukwu Olasi Esquire and associate on behalf of the family of late Honorable Dressman against the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company for alleged brutal killing of Honorable Dressman by officials of the company, and they urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Mr. President, I would like us to go to, since we have copies of this report, I would like to go to findings and observations.
Right.
Observations and findings. After considering the disposition of both parties to the case and the submissions, the committee noted as follows. 1, that there was no doubt that Honorable Desi Dressman, who was a staff of PHEDC, died of electrocution while on active duty. 2, that the incident, which happened since Thursday, 12th March 2015, could not be settled essentially because of fear and serious intimidation from the family of the deceased. 3, however, that with the intervention of the committee, both parties agreed to settle the matter as follows. A, that PHEDC would pay the family of the deceased a total sum of 11,285,631 naira 71 kobo as settlement costs covering death the benefits, out-of-pocket expenses, and logistics to various places the family went to seek redress, professional fee of counsel, and burial expenses. B, PHEDC to employ 2 of the relations of the dead. Recommendation. The committee is pleased to inform the Senate that 1, the terms of settlement above have not only been approved but have also been implemented to the letter by the committee. And 2, the matter has been amicably resolved and both petitioner and respondent are pleased to put the matter behind them. In conclusion, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, I thank you for the support and cooperation and opportunity to serve. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to put on record that this matter has been in court for almost 2 years, and the parties could not agree until finally they withdrew the matter from court and presented the petition to the Senate. And the Senate went into the matter. We did a forensic analysis investigation on this matter, and I can tell you today, 2 of the family members have been employed by the company, and the money meant for all these items listed out here has been paid, and we have a copy of the draft which they have given to the family. So this matter has been concluded. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleague, I think it's a pretty straightforward matter. The matter has been concluded, and I think it's also, as the chairman said, this is really one of the reasons why we're here to serve our people and to really see the processes working. I commend the efforts of the Ethics Committee. We give hope to the common man and woman who, before now, really there was no hope for this family in a case like this. So I think it's commendable to keep up the work. And I think it's just for us to note really and acknowledge with the efforts of the chairman. Well done. Next report.
Thank you, Mr. President. In continuation with the report, Mr. President, Very distinguished colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 13th July 2016, arising on Order 41, Senator Foster Ogola, Bayelsa West, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from his constituent, Corporal Maxwell Bikadem, retired against the Nigerian Army over his non-inclusion in the payroll of the Directorate of Military Pensions Board after voluntary retirement, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed investigation. I'll go to findings and observation. After carefully studying the submissions of both parties, the committee noted as follows. 1. That Corporal Maxwell Bikadem, retired, voluntarily retired from the Nigerian Army in 1979 without reaching the mandatory 15 years in service that would have qualified him for pension because of his failing health. 2. That he requested for his retirement and the Nigerian Army accordingly retired him to attend to his health challenges. And 3. That the petitioner was not eligible for enlistment for pension because of he did not serve up to 15 years, but would have been qualified for pension from the Nigerian Army of Military Pensions Board, as it was the policy head. Recommendation. In view of the findings above, the committee hereby recommends as follows: that the Senate should not grant the request of Corporal Maxwell Bikadem, retired, for his enlistment by the Nigerian Army Military Pensions Board for the payment of his pension because he voluntarily retired without reaching the mandatory 15 years in service that would have qualified him for pension as it was the policy then. Conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the committee, I wish to thank you for your support and cooperation and opportunity to serve. Once again, thank you, Mr. President.
Any comments? Shall I put a question on the recommendation 1? The recommendation was that the Senate should not grant the request of Colonel Maxwell Bikadem for his enlistment by the Nigerian Army Pension Board for the payment of his pension because he voluntarily retired without reaching the mandatory service. Those in favor of that for recommendation 1, you approve, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Once we let, I think that's the only recommendation on that. We'll bring conclusion to that report. Thank you. Chairman, next report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next report, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Tuesday, 12th April 2016, rising order 41, Senator Enyinaya I.H. Abaribe, Abia South, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition by Law Right Associates against the Department of Parks and Recreation, Federal Capital Territory Administration, for alleged unlawful conversion and reallocation of a green area / park plot in Guzape, and urge the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate will refer the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Please, you may peruse well while I go to observations and findings for want of time. Observations / findings. After deeply probing the parties and thoroughly studying the issues raised in the written and oral submissions of both parties, the committee discovered that the following. 1. That what the petitioner presented as document of ownership to plot 1585B, Guzape, A09 district, was a mere letter of intent to develop, manage, and operate a designated park, and not a letter of allocation. A letter of intent does not confer ownership of the holder. 2. That whereas FCTA records of titles available show that an area of about 39.64 hectares within Guzape A09 district was in 2003 granted to Mrs. L&K Investment Limited for housing estates development under statutory right of occupancy number MLSC 19107. The petitioner claimed that his client, Right Farm Investment Limited, acquired both 1585B, which is part of the 39.64 hectares already granted to Mrs. L&K Investment Limited from Jenk Investment Limited. Unfortunately, FCTA records available show that Jenk Investment Limited did not go beyond just acquiring letter of intent. 3. Although the grant of 39.64 hectares was reviewed in 2015 as a result of some physical constraints, and about 24 hectares excised and incorporated into the holdings of the Federal Housing Authority, FHA. The remaining 19.11 hectares, renamed plot number 4851 Guzape 809 district, was accordingly restored to L&K Investment Limited for housing estate development. 4. That the said letter of intent dated 5th July 2007 in favor of Gent Investment Limited was made over an already existing statutory grant to L&K Investment Limited with right of occupancy dating back to 2003. 5. That the claim that Red Farm Investment Limited acquired plot 1585B from Gent Investment Limited via power of attorney was actually a contradiction and violation of the Federal Capital Territory Administration Park policy, which forbids the resale of a park plot to any other interest. Recommendation. From the findings which were themselves consequent upon the submissions of the petitioner and the respondent, the committee wishes to make the following recommendation. 1. That since the petitioner could not prove that he was the authentic owner of the plot 1585B, Guzape 809 district, which was renamed plot 4851, and the Federal Capital Territory Administration was able to establish that plot 4851 was actually granted to L&K Investment since 2003. The Senate cannot grant the petitioner's prayers that A, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory Administration or his representatives be compelled to excise the original park plot number 1585 from the newly created plot 4851 and return the plot to the petitioner's client, Mrs. Red Farm Investment Limited. Or B, the beneficiary of the reallocated 1585B, now reworked as part of plot 4851, be compelled to adequately compensate the petitioner's client, Red Farm Investment Limited, with a plot of land, corresponding with the plot of the land in issue. Mr. President, Mr. colleagues, the committee wishes to thank Mr. President, Mr. colleagues, on behalf of the committee. I thank you for the opportunity and cooperation and the opportunity to serve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any comments, so that we go straight to the recommendation? Recommendation 1, that the Minister, that the Senate cannot grant the petitioner's prayer that the Minister of Federal Capital Territory Administration, which has to be compared to excise original plot. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. 1A say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 1B, the beneficiary. Second prayer 1B, that Senate cannot grant the petitioner prayer that the beneficiary of the reallocated plot 1585B be compared to adequately compensate the petitioner's client with a plot of land with the plot of land in issue. Yes? Those in favor of that prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Again, let me thank the committee for the work well done. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Chinedu Obi Esquire on behalf of Tony Onwara against Nigeria Customs Service and the Nigeria Post Authority over Tony Onwara's missing container at Tinkan Island. B, petition from OA Bosede Fumilola against the West African Examination Council for alleged non-issuance of a senior school examination certificate. And C, petition from Usman Umar against the Nigerian Army for alleged wrongful dismissal from the Army. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that these reports were laid on Tuesday, 24th January 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samuel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Samuel. I represent Imo East. Mr. President, with the leave of the Senate, I move that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, privileges and public petitions in respect of A. Petition from Chinedu Obi Esquire on behalf of Tony Honora against the Nigerian Customs Service and the Nigerian Ports Authority over Tony Honora's missing container at Tinkan Island. B. Petition from Owoye Bosede Fumilala against the West African Examination Council for alleged non-issuance of her senior school examination certificate. And C. Petition from Usman Umar against Nigerian Army for alleged wrongful dismissal from the Army. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Gobri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Ibrahim Gobir, representing Sokoto East. I second that distinguished Senator Samuel Anyang to present the following reports, A, B, C. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges and Public Petition in respect of the listed petitions by the chairman, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Samayan, present reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Tuesday, 11th August 2015, rising on order 41, Senator Uche Ekudife, Anambra Central, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from our constituent, Tony Honora, against Nigerian Customs Service and Nigerian Ports Authority over his missing container at the Tinkan Island, Lagos, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed investigation. I move to observations and findings, since you have copies of it. Observations and findings. After carefully studying the submissions of both parties, the committee recommendation. Okay. I'll go to recommendation. It's a straightforward issue. Item 70. In view of the findings above, the committee recommends as follows: that the Senate do advise Tony Honora, the Nigerian Customs Services and Nigerian Ports Authority to seek resolution of the matter through the court. That's the conclusion, because they couldn't bring the matters, the parties to agree. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving us an opportunity to serve.
I put the question on recommendation. Those in favor of the recommendation that the Senate do advise Dr. Tony Onuara, Nigerian Customs Service and Nigerian Ports Authority to seek resolution of the matter through the court. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, the chairman, for that report. Go on to the next report.
Thank you, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues. The next report, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 27 April 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Babajide C. Omowore, Osun East, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from Owoye Bosede Fumilelo against the West African Examination Council for alleged non-issuance of the senior school examination certificate, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Mr. President, colleagues, if you look at the report, I can go straight to the recommendation instead of looking for findings, unless you wish. Okay, recommendation. Having fully heard and considered the submissions of the petitioner and the respondent, the committee recommends that they do appreciate the West African Examination Council for responding to its call to issue Owoye Bosede Fumilelo, who had been duly earned her school certificates, and the petitioner for patiently fighting a just cause until a solution came by the working of the Senate. This matter has been resolved. This matter lingered for so many years. The committee went into it and got the WAEC to be able to release and issue this result to the petitioner. This matter has been fully concluded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think this matter, distinguished colleagues, has already been concluded. It's just for us to note, we thank the effort of the committee in bringing this matter, getting this matter resolved. Next report, Chairman.
next report, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 16th March 2016, Rising number 41, Senator Tijani Y. Kaura, Zamfara North, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from his constituent, Usman Umar, against the Nigerian Army for allegedly wrongful dismissal from the Army and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41, the Senate referred the matter to the committee. I must take for observation and finding for you to be able to understand this report. Observations and findings. After listening to the petitioner and the respondent and looking at the documents available in relation to the case, the committee observed as follows. 1. That TPR Usman Umar actually joined the Nigerian Army and was posted to 232 Battalion on 4th January 2007. 2. That he was dismissed for false claims at the point of enlistment into the Nigerian Army. 3. That ex-soldier Usman Umar actually admitted that he committed the offense, which was a breach of Section 39 of the Armed Forces Act Cap A20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria to 2004. 4. That though the legal services unit of the Army thought that the officer's dismissal should be quashed and the officer restated, the Nigerian Army insisted that TPR Usman Umar be dismissed to serve as a deterrent to others. 5. The committee is of the opinion that since it was established that TPR Usman Umar's false claims were intentional, he should not be allowed to benefit from such falsehood by restating him. Recommendation. From the findings above, the committee wishes to recommend as follows. That since it was established that TPR Usman intentionally committed the offense of falsification of claims, which was a breach of Section 39 of the Armed Forces Act, to which he also admitted, his dismissal by the Nigerian Army be sustained. Conclusion, Mr. President, we thank you for opportunity to serve.
We'll go to recommendation. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the recommendation, that since it was established that TPR Usman Umar intentionally committed the offense of falsification of claims, which was a breach of Section 39 of the Armed Forces Act, to which he also admitted, his dismissal by the Nigerian Army should be sustained. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Once again, thank you, Chairman, Ethics and Privileges, for this report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Mr. Anthony Joy Ekpeme against First Bank of Nigeria PLC for extrajudicial termination of his appointment by the bank. B, petition from Association of Federal Government Doctorate Degree Students in Russia against the Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Scholarship Board for delay and non-payment of their stipends. C, petition from Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu against First Bank of Nigeria PLC for alleged unlawful termination of his appointment by the bank. And D, petition from PC Vembe Abraham against the Nigeria Police Force for alleged wrongful dismissal from the force. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that these reports were laid on Wednesday, 22nd March 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyao to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samayo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Samayo. I represent Imo East. By the leave of the President and the Senate, I move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme against First Bank of Nigeria PLC for extrajudicial termination of his appointment by the bank. B, petition from Association of Federal Government Doctorate Degree Students in Russia against the Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Scholarship Board for delay and non-payment of their stipends. C, petition from Ndubisi Nwosu against the First Bank of Nigeria for alleged unlawful termination of his appointment by the bank. And D, petition from PC Vembe Abraham against the Nigerian Police Force for alleged wrongful dismissal from the force. I so move.
Senator Shehu Sani.
I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to move that the report of the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges, as so moved by the chairman, is called. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of this petition just listed, just in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Samayan, present the reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. Esteemed colleagues. The Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 2nd March 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Dino Melaya Kogi West drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from his constituent, Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme, against the First Bank of Nigeria PLC for alleged extrajudicial termination of his appointment by the bank and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the matter was referred to the Committee on Ethics. I go to observation and findings. Observations and findings. After diligently going through the testimonies and submissions available, the committee noted as follows. 1. That whereas Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme rested his argument on the understanding that the termination of his employment was caused by the unproved allegation that he extorted monies from a customer to the tune of 500,000, the bank terminated his appointment by operationalizing Section A10 of the bank's Employee Handbook 2007, which grants both the bank and its staff the right to terminate their contract of employment by giving the other party 1 month's notice or payment of equivalent amount of basic salary in lieu of notice. 2. That the above clause does not detract from Section 11(2)(d) of the Labour Act 2004, which makes a similar provision. And 3. That the case had dragged over the years because the petitioner thought that his employment was terminated based on the allegation of extortion of money, a thing he considered to smear on his integrity. 4. That the termination letter actually read, services no longer required, not necessarily because of any allegation. 5. That although Mr. Anthony Beme actually had outstanding entitlements of 2,114,358.84 naira, he was indebted to the bank to the tune of 2,459,342.20 kobo, resting in a net debt balance of 344,983 naira or 36, a debt he was expected to settle, or in the alternative. C. Return his status car to enable the bank pay him the net entitlement of 1,939,290 naira 61 kobo. Recommendation. In view of the findings above, the committee hereby recommends as follows: that the Senate do advise Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme to allow sleeping dogs lie on this matter, as the bank acted within its obligation to staff under Section 810 of the First Bank's Employee Handbook 2007, which grants both employee and employer right to terminate the employment contract either on notice or payment in lieu of the notice. Thank you, Mr. President.
The same colleagues will take the recommendation. I put the question. Those in favor of the recommendation that the Senate do advise Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme to allow sleeping dogs lie on this matter, as the bank acted within its obligation to staff under Section 810 of the First Bank's Employee Handbook 2017, which grants both employer and employer right to terminate the employment contract either on notice or payment in lieu of notice. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chairman. Next report.
Next report, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The Senate will record that on Wednesday, 25th November 2015, Rising Order 41, Senator David Omaro, Niger East, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from the Association of Federal Government Doctorate Degree Students in Russia against Federal Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board for delayed and non-payment of their stipends. In line with Order 41, this matter is referred to the Committee on Ethics. We want to go to findings, observations and findings. After carefully studying the submissions of both parties, the committee noted as follows: that a bilateral education agreement existed between the Nigerian government and Russia and other countries to train students in various fields, while the home government looked after their upkeep during their stay in the host countries. B, that the number of Nigerian students in Russia under the BEA was 375. C, that the inability of the Federal Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board to give prompt financial assistance to the scholarship students as a result of exchange rate differentials and inadequate budgetary releases had exposed the students to various hardship, which was affecting their health and academic activities. D, that every outstanding debt owed the student had been paid up to 2016 by the Federal Ministry of Education Scholarship Board. Recommendations. In view of the findings above, the committee recommends as follows: that the Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board should ensure that budgetary proposal to cover for the upkeep of the scholarship students in Russia and other countries should be in accordance with the projected exchange rate. B, that the Federal Ministry of Education should give priority to scholarship students in the allocation of funds released to it for its departments and agencies to avoid exposing the students to further unbearable conditions and by extension embarrassing the country. And C, that the Senate do urge the federal government to ensure that adequate budgetary provisions and timely release of funds appropriated are made to Federal Scholarship Board for the upkeep of the BEE scholarship. I want to say, Mr. President, that this matter has been resolved. The payments have been made, the students have received their stipends, and the Federal Ministry of Education and the Scholarship Board have now agreed that they're going to pay on time to avoid this kind of situation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, as reported by the chairman, this matter has been resolved, and I think it's just for us to note the actions that they've taken so far. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. President. They have paid off these stipends for the student. But we're saying that in the subsequent ones, they must, because the issue we had was that most of the funds released to them, because of the forest differences, they were asked now to make a projection so that they do not fall short of what they're supposed to use.
So you want to take this recommendation, is that what you're saying? Okay. Recommendation 1 then. Yes. Recommendation 1, that the Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board should ensure that further budgetary proposal to cater for the upkeep of the scholarship students in Russia and other countries should be in accordance with the projected exchange rate. Those in favor of recommendation 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that the Federal Ministry of Education should give priority to the scholarship students in the allocation of funds released to it for its department and agencies to avoid exposing the students to further unbearable conditions, by extension embarrassing the country. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And recommendation 3, that the Senate do urge the federal government to ensure that adequate budgetary provisions and timely release of funds appropriated and made to the Federal Scholarship Board for the upkeep of the BE scholars. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chairman Ethics. Can you present the next report? Thank you. Yes, Senator Manja.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I know before that one, Mr. President, I want to sincerely thank, on behalf of myself, thank Senator Ayahu and all the members of that committee for having done a very thorough job, truly. Senator Ayahu, we have always had Ayahus here from a particular direction in the southeast, and they have always been wise people, very wise, and this is another wise Ayahu. They have done wonderfully well, Mr. President, and it is important for it to be noted by the Senate that this committee has done a good job, because matters that ordinarily supposed to go to court, these matters are no longer going to court. And most of these issues about people who who do not have the means to go to court. And these matters have been resolved amicably. Those ones that cannot be resolved, even the people are aware that these matters are bad. The committee has done a good job on behalf of the entire Senate, on behalf of all Nigerians. That is what the Senate is all about. Our duty here is not just to make laws, to have oversight activities on the executive, but also resolve matters amicably. And that is what this committee is all about. Mr. President, I just decided, I haven't listened to him for a long while. I decided that something must be said about them. And that's the reason why I decided to stand up to make this speech. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
And Senator James Manja, I think the point you made is well noted. And right from the first report they gave, we did the case of the gentleman that was electrocuted, with the family were later compensated, as we emphasize that the work of the committee that they're doing is very, very enormous and very living. As you say, we're not just here to make laws and oversight. We represent people, we give people hope, we give opportunities to them, and the family that had lost everything, but by the action of the committee we've been able to resolve that, and as you say, also stopped us from going to court on issues. It's a commended effort, and the efforts that we're doing, we commend it and appreciate it, and that is why we're trying to encourage them to try and see if we can clear a lot of their backlog reports so they can be able to do more. So, Senator Samayi, that was another endorsement from one of your colleagues and from all of us for the good work that you are doing. So, next, so I can say that is why there's also been a recommendation that the budgetary allocation to the committee in 2017 should be increased, and that will be reflected in 2017 budget. Senator Samayo.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank the colleagues for this wonderful submission. And it could have been possible without my colleagues and my members of the committee.
Yes, you will no longer fight.
Mr. President, right, colleagues, the student will record that on Wednesday, 18th May 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Joseph G. Dada August West drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from PC Vembe Abraham against Nigerian Police Force for alleged wrongful dismissal from the service and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the committee for actions. I will now go to, because this matter is just, let me just go to the recommendation. Oh, shit. Observations, sorry. Observations and findings. After going through oral and written submissions of both parties, the committee found as follows. 1. That PC Vembe Abraham was arrested by SP Felicia Moses in Abuja and detained for 14 days for an alleged robbery case. 2. That after the release of PC Vembe Abraham from detention, he never showed up in his new command nor reported back for further investigation of the robbery case against him. C. That PC Vembe actually deserted the force by not showing up at the new command for fear of being penalized till date. Recommendation. Having fully heard and considered the submissions of the petitioner and responded, the committee recommends that since the dismissal of PC Vembe Abraham was based on the desertion which he evidently committed, his dismissal by police force should be sustained. Thank you, Mr. President, again, and to colleagues for the opportunity to serve.
Distinguished colleagues, we go straight to the recommendation. The recommendation here is that the committee recommends that since the dismissal of PC Vembe Abraham was based on desertion, which he evidently committed, his dismissal by the Nigerian Police Force should be sustained. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I thank the chairman of Ethics and Privileges. We now take your next report. The one on the first bank, another first bank, Indubuse Wosu.
Thank you, Mr. President. colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 5th October 2016, rising on order 41, Senator Theodore A. Oji, Abia East, Abia Central, please, it should be corrected, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu against the First Bank of Nigeria PSC for alleged unlawful termination of his appointment by the bank, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred to the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Then I'll go to observation of findings. Observation and findings. After going through the submissions of both parties, the committee found out as follows. 1. That Mr. Nwosu's appointment was terminated on 7 November 2001 because he failed to frustrate fraudulent withdrawal of 2 parallel checks totaling 7,370 naira. 2. That the bank's disciplinary process was duly followed in terminating Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu's appointment, and the bank acted in line with the terms and conditions of service. And 3. That the bank had paid Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu the sum of 1,416,166 naira, 67 kobo, as his terminal benefits on 13 February 2014, which he personally acknowledged. Recommendation. Having fully heard and considered the submissions of the petitioner and the respondent, the committee recommends 1. The termination of the appointment of Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu by First Bank of Nigeria PLC be sustained, since A. Due process was followed in terminating the appointment, and B. His terminal benefit have been paid by the bank and duly collected and acknowledged by the petitioner. Thank you, Mr. President, and the opportunity to serve. Yeah?
Distinguished colleagues, we go to recommendation. The committee recommends the termination of the appointment of Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu by First Bank of Nigeria be sustained, since a due process was followed in terminating the appointment, and his terminal benefits have been paid by the bank and duly collected and acknowledged by the petitioner. Those in favor of recommendation 1, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Yeah, once again, let me thank the chairman for the work well done. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, the sixth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A. Petition raised by Senator Muhammad Ali Ndume on the insinuation that the invitation of the Controller General of Customs was informed by the seizure of the bulletproof SUV vehicle belonging to the Senate President, purportedly cleared with fake National Assembly document. And B, the alleged first-degree saga of Senator Dino Melai. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samayo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. You know, I have a lot of work to do today, and because this report just had to come, I want my colleagues to give you like 10 minutes for us to step it down for 10 minutes so that my members could sign, because I want to make sure I have the accurate thing, Mr. President. This is for laying and consideration. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, without someone to second the motion that we stand it down for 15 minutes, we can take the next item on the order paper and then consider. Anyway, seconding that motion, and then we'll put the question. Senator Alashadra. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion, I will stand there for 15 minutes. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh order of the day is the second reading of the Local Government Act Repeal Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 9th November 2016. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Peter Wabish to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Peter Wabish.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Peter Wabish, representing the good people of Delta North. Mr. President, I noticed that the Secretariat is not ready. Secretariat is not ready with the copies of the bill for the second reading. So I will order this be stood down for another legislative bill.
Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down the seventh order of the day till another legislative day.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the seventh order on the paper be stood down till another legislative day. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that will send down this item to another legislative day say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the eighth order of the day is second reading of the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 22nd March 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Hope Uzodinma to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Hope Uzodinma.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Hope Uzodinma. I represent the good people of Imo West Senatorial District in Imo State. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria Bill 2017. This bill was first read on Wednesday, 22nd March 2017. The bill essentially seeks to establish a corporate body to be known as the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria. Under the bill, the Institute is mandated with the responsibility of offering to perform any service involving the verification of goods, property, or land for the purpose of public sale by competition. The Institute regulates the practice of auctioneering in the country and promotes the professionalism of auctioneers and auctions through education and technology. The Institute will determine what standards of knowledge and skill that are to be attained by persons seeking to become members of the auctioneering profession, and raising those standards from time to time as circumstances may permit. The Institute is to promote, increase, and build the trustworthiness of the competitive bidding method of marketing, including live internet and sealed bid auctions, as well as enhancing the professionalism of its practitioners. The Institute will also make rules prescribing the form of license to be issued annually or by endorsement on an existing license, as well as canvass for potential buyers through their experience with advertising, valuation, and appraisal. The bill contains the Code of Ethics for Auctioneers within the Institute to promote high ethical standards and best practices in the profession, thereby ensuring a position and a worry-free sales experience. It is expected that this bill will institutionalize, regulate, and standardize and sanitize the practice of auctioneering in Nigeria, and credibly chart a forward path towards the public, transparent, and legal disposal of items through auctions. It is pertinent to note, my distinguished colleagues, that in Nigerian economy today, there exists a portfolio in excess of 10 trillion naira worth of assets that would potentially fall under auction items. For instance, a recurring question during the confirmation hearing of the chairman of EFCC revolves around the methodology of disposal of impounded assets. In similar vein, organizations like ICPC, CCB, the Nigerian Police, Federal Inland Revenue Services, AMCON, the Customs, banks, among others, are by the nature of their jobs exposed to situations that will require them to auction assets. Currently, the absence of regulation forces a situation where the impounding authority and its agents are potentially exposed to damaging conflicts of interest. In line with Order 77.3, this bill has no consequential financial implication on government, as no public funds are involved. The Institute will rely solely on membership, subscription, and revenue from ancillary services for its operation. In view of the laudable objectives of this bill, I urge you all to support it for second reading. I so move.
Senator Lidani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani. I represent Gombe South. I'd like to support this bill that it should be read the second time. In the 7th Senate, I had the privilege of sponsoring a bill that is similar to this one, and I'm therefore familiar with the group, the auctioneers. Actually, they are already in existence. They are a union, and they have been carrying out their responsibilities and their duties. But one thing they lack is the legal capacity, the legal personality that will enable them to carry out their functions and be able to sue and be sued in their own corporate name. So this bill seeks to give them the cloak of legal personality that will enable them discharge their functions and their responsibilities. And also this bill, this is a group that do not derive their funding from public funds. They are a self-regulating body. They are a self-sustaining body. They don't require any dime from the government. And therefore, this is the kind of bill that we should support because they don't have any financial implications on the purse of the government. I therefore urge my colleagues to support this bill as it will enable the auctioneers body to be able to discharge its responsibilities. And also we know we have a lot of impounded assets by various government organizations. These assets have been lying there for long, and they have not been auctioned, they have not been disposed of in any way. Therefore, this bill will enable this kind of organization to encourage government to follow due process in auctioning these properties. And once these properties are auctioned through the auctioneers, then it becomes legal, because anybody who acquires it is deemed to have acquired it legally. And therefore, there wouldn't be any challenge of litigation on the matter. So I urge my colleagues to support this bill. Thank you.
Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues. I think the jurisprudential utility of this bill relates to the ability of the auctioneers to transfer good and legal title to whoever is going to buy properties through auction. Hitherto, what we have ordinarily can be challenged, that a bona fide purchaser at the auction level may not necessarily have a legal title. Because under the Sales of Goods Act, a bona fide purchaser for value in an overt market is deemed by the provision of the Sales of Goods Act to acquire good value. But the authority to transfer properties must be legal. Because if, for example, you have government assets that belongs to government. Hitherto what we have, they say they are registered auctioneers. They just have one place where they go and register. But legally speaking, sir, they cannot transfer the title because the title does not belong to them. But because by usage and convention we have continued to accept that registration, doesn't mean that under a democratic dispensation we should not make attempt to legally regularize the position of auctioneers in Nigeria. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, in the United States of America, every Wednesday and Thursdays, if you visit the auction halls, they call them where they auction properties, cars, and the rest, you will have seen that it is a recognized, legally established auction platform with statutory procedural authority to do what they are doing. And therefore, if you buy anything from that place, you are deemed to have acquired legal title. So the idea, as far as this bill is concerned, is very, very noble. It should be supported by every senator here in our efforts and determination to at least try as much as we can to regulate the conduct of the society in which we live on to be strictly determined by law and the Constitution. That is the essence of democracy, Mr. President. And that singular reason was the reason why Nigerians yearn for a democratic system where they can reasonably predict what their rights and obligations are under the provision of the Constitution and the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I therefore urge my colleagues to support this bill, ably moved by distinguished Senator Hope Ozedima, Imo West.
Any other contributions, sir? Yes, Senator Tazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Chukwuka Otaze. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I think this is a very important bill that has been introduced by no less a person than distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma. His business background has been meant to be brought to bear on this very, very important bill. And as the Senate Committee Chairman on Customs, I know through oversight I've seen a lot of things that has made him to come up with this very important bill. The allusions he made in the leader debate here are all very true. As the Senate Committee Chairman on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, through the instrumentality of your office, we were permitted, this committee were permitted to move around the whole country to see the anti-graft agencies' offices outside Abuja. And I want to corroborate here corroborate what he has just said in his lead debate, that if you go to several offices of these anti-graft agencies, you see vehicles lying waste, very costly vehicles. Nothing being done, because you don't have a body of law, as is suggested here, to handle such issues, and this is laying waste. These are the sources of internally generated revenue that can accrue to this government, especially in a situation we have found ourselves in recession. Every effort we should make should be done. Every effort should be done to ensure that the little areas where we can get money should be exploited. If you go to all the police stations in the country here, their offices are littered with vehicles that are supposed to be auctioned and all that. With what has been said and others here, I'm lending my own support that this bill be read a second time, and helping us to have a body of law that can handle what we have been doing through conventions, which we are now going to follow through the system of law. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, no more contributions. I will now put the question on the second reading. Those in favor that this bill be now read the second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria to provide for the control of its membership, and to promote the practice of auctioneers in Nigeria and for other purposes connected therewith, 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria to provide for the control of its membership and to promote the practice of auctioneers in Nigeria and for other purposes connected there with 2017 second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters and Customer Excellence report back within 4 weeks. Let me thank Senator Hope Uzodimma for this very important bill. And as other colleagues have contributed, I think definitely regulating the process of auctioneering will go a long way in instilling confidence into processes and the economy, because the resultant of the action, of course, is, as you say, is legal title, which goes a long way in the areas of ease of business, people knowing certainty and clarity on some of these processes. So I hope that the committee will do work on this promptly and bring it back here for plenary, back to Senate. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the ninth order of the day is the second reading of the Ademi Federal University of Education Ondo Establishment ETC Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 6 December 2016. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Alashi Dura Omatayo to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Tayo Alashi Dura, Ondo Central.
My name is Senator Tayo Alashi Dura, representing Ondo Central Senatorial District of Ondo State. Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, and my distinguished colleagues, we all are aware of the importance of education to the development of a modern society. The existence of a sound and robust educational system in any society is predicated on the availability of qualified and well-trained teachers who will impart their acquired knowledge and skills on their students. Thus, the need to have a strong system in our educational sector that shall continuously produce well-qualified and trained teachers as it is obtained in other developed countries of the world cannot be overemphasized. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, 6 December 2016. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, you may recall that in the month of May 2015, the Federal Executive Council approved the upgrading of 4 colleges of education, Ondo, Kano, Owerri, and Zaria, to Federal Universities of Education. These institutions are known to be the oldest post-grade 2 teachers training colleges and the pioneer advanced teachers colleges of education in Nigeria. The idea of upgrading the colleges to autonomous teachers education degree awarding institutions goes as far back as the 1980s, when stakeholders and prominent educationists like Professor Segun Adesina proposed their upgrading to universities of education to enhance teaching quality at all levels of the Nigerian educational system. Indeed, former President Olusegun Obasanjo during his administration gave the approval for the implementation of the upgrade of these colleges within the reforms agenda framework proposed by the then Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili. Hence, the announcement of the upgrade of these institutions to universities during the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan was well received by all. On the 26th of May 2015, the federal government went further to appoint vice chancellors for the newly upgraded universities. Governing councils of the colleges were also reconstituted into governing councils of the new universities, while the provosts were redesignated as deputy vice chancellors. The vice chancellors were directed to take charge of the institutions and to provide the transition processes from federal colleges of education status to federal universities of education. Upon reporting to the institutions, the vice chancellors put in motion actions to midwife issues relating to the academic brief, redesignation of the schools into faculties, staff appraisal, and academic programs nomenclature of the universities, etc. Contacts were made with the National Universities Commission and Joint Admission and Matriculation Board to clarify the accreditation program in the institutions. Admissions for the then autonomous undergraduate programs of these institutions were being expected when suddenly the Federal Ministry of Education issued letters to put the upgrade of the colleges to universities status on hold. This was possible because of the fact that the laws establishing the universities were not made at the time the upgrade of the colleges to universities were approved by the last administration. Flowing from all the actions enumerated so far, this bill is now brought before this hallowed chamber for passage. It should be noted that these are well-established institutions that have a strong infrastructural base that is better than what is obtainable in several universities in the country today, and therefore has no additional financial implication. Thus, Adeyemi University of Education, Ondo, has more than infrastructural requirements necessary for the setting up of a university. It should be remembered that one of the cardinal goals of this administration is the development of our educational sector. Based on the need to train high-level teachers, I urge all my colleagues, distinguished senators, to support the expeditious passage of this bill. Thank you.
Senator Jibubara.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, a sound and robust education system cannot be achieved without the availability of teachers to provide the needed knowledge to the deserving students. When you look at the education system of well-established countries or developed countries in the world, you find out they have a number of special schools, special universities that provide education to teachers that will teach in their educational system. This is exactly what previous governments decided to do, including the the past administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, when they gave the approval for the establishment of the upgrading of 4 colleges of education, one in Kano, another in Zaria, then of course one in Ondo, and the last one in Owerri, that they should be upgraded to universities. And that was done. But the fact that the bills that were to be passed to make them to become legal entities were not passed at that time. And this is exactly what this bill is seeking to do, to pass the law establishing or upgrading Adeyemi College of Education, Ondo, to Federal University of Education, Ondo. This is exactly what this bill wants to do. So without taking time, I think this bill is very straightforward, and I know because already the 3 colleges of education or 2 have been passed, similar bills have been passed. So I urge my colleagues to give their support so that this one can be passed without taking much time. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Matthew Rogiti.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Matthew Urogide. I represent Edo South Central District, Edo State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support this bill. My colleagues here have adduced reasons why this bill should be read a second time, but I just want to draw our attention to the statistics that exist in our university system today. They have put emphasis on the importance of education, but I want to say that the Faculty of Education in all our Nigerian universities, you find is one of the biggest, one of the largest faculties you find in our
university system. ADME College of Education has existed for a very long time, just like the Amaikoku College of Education in Owerri has existed for a very long time, and the other two that have been mentioned in Kano and in Zaria. I just believe too that we can never have enough teachers that will be trained through the university system in this country, even going by our population as a nation, and of course the population of those that are, going through education in this country. Therefore, I just believe that we shouldn't waste time, in passing, this bill for it to undergo second reading, because even outside this bill that have been approved by previous administrations in this country, we still need a lot more, of university, of education in Nigeria to train the, teaming manpower that is needed, to be able to, take on the educational, sector, or the educational sector, particularly in the university system, so that those that, are out there to get this quality education will not be denied. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other contributing to this? I'll put the question then. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be read second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the ADME Federal University of Education Bill and for other matters connected therewith, 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the ADME Federal University of Education, Undo, and for other matters connected there with 2017 second reading taken. This bill is referred to Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund to report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, are you ready? If you are ready, you go on. You go ahead. You should go ahead. Because we have already, you say you needed only 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Now, Samaya, we are ready to take the item number 6. And yes? Okay, Leader of the Senate. DSP, if you come and preside over this session.
Leader. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, we are back to the 6th order of the day, which is the presentation and consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of petition raised by Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume on the insinuation that the invitation of the Comptroller General of Customs was informed by the seizure of the bulletproof SUV vehicle belonging to the Senate President, purportedly cleared with the fake National Assembly document, and B, the alleged first-degree saga of Senator Dino Melai. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Anyanwu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Sam Anyanwu. I represent Imo East and Imo State. With the leave of Mr. President and the Senate, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of a matter of privilege raised by Senator Ali Ndume on A, the insinuation that the invitation of the Comptroller General of Customs was informed by the seizure of the bulletproof SUV vehicle belonging to the Senate President, purportedly cleared with fake National Assembly documents, and B, the alleged first-degree saga of Senator Dino Melai. I so move.
Senator Gobert.
Yes, my name is Senator Ibrahim Goga, representing Sokoto East. I second that the bill heavily moved by Chairman Committee on Ethics and Privileges be taken care of.
Okay. Those in support that Senate do now receive this report say aye. Those against saying nay, the ayes have it. Now, Senator Young, you lay the report first, then we'll go back to the next. All right, thank you. Distinguished colleagues, if you look at the other paper, the report for the Senate to receive the report and consider it as well. So if we now receive the report, I think I'll now invite Senator Young to present the report for our consideration. Senator Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Sam Young, I represent Imo East and Imo State. Mr. President, the reports A and B is compressed into one document because it's the same person that alleged. So I want to move, and I will want to ask my colleagues, let me go through this report.
You have to go through the whole report, everything.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate will record that on Tuesday, 21st March 2017, rising on orders 14 and 15, Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume, Borno South, drew the attention of the Senate to media insinuations that Senator Dino Melaya did not complete his first degree program, and also the insinuation by the media that the invitation of the Controller General of Customs, Colonel Ali retired, Hamid Ali retired, by the Senate was informed by the seizure of a bulletproof SUV vehicle belonging to the Senate President, attempted to be cleared with fake National Assembly documents, but seized by the Customs, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, and for detailed investigation. Following the Senate resolution and referral, the committee met and resolved that in addressing this matter, it will consider the following instruments: the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, the Senate Standing Rules Order 2015 as amended, and the principle of equity, fairness, and justice. The committee also resolved to invite, 1, the complainant, distinguished Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume; 2, the respondents, the Senate President, Senator Dr. Bukola Saraki, the importer, Mr. Tokumbo Akindele, the dealer, Mr. Lare Shitu, and the Chairman, Senate Committee Senate Services, Senator Dino Melaye. Testimonies of submissions. The committee received written submissions, documents, and listened to oral testimonies from the complainant and respondents as follows. 4.1. The complainant, Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume, testifying. Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume testified as follows. 1, that he did not petition the Senate President, that said that the integrity of the Senate will be damaged by the story he read in the media, and that the Senate was only Avengers mission against the Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, because the Nigeria Customs seized Senator Bukola's bulletproof Range Rover vehicle, and also seeing that the image of Senate will be smeared by the Senator Dino's first degree certificate saga. He raised the matters through orders 14 and 15 in order that the Senate may clear the civilian on its integrity. 3, that he wanted to even go to court to stop the anti-people policy of the federal government, Nigerian Customs, that citizens should be asked to produce customs papers of their cars on Nigerian states, but that he surrendered when they saw that the customs had withdrawn from the further action. 4, that he did not have any document to prove the allegations he made against Senator Dino Melaye and the Senate President, and other than what he read in the media. And 5, that he thought he should be commended for his patriotism. 4.2, the respondents. The Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, responding to the allegation, the Senate President said that he appeared before the committee in order to clear the mess introduced by Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume. 2, that he was happy to appear before his appearance because his appearance would help build the institution of the Senate as a body bigger and greater than its component parts. That he was not an importer, neither did he import or order to be imported any Range Rover SUV vehicle. And car documents which were not in the and I concluded that the legislators must protect the institution because a strong parliament makes a strong democracy. 4.3. The importer, Mr. Tokumbo Akindele, speaking before the committee.
Thank you. Take this.
Okay, sorry. That he contacted his Mark Incorporation USA to provide him a bulletproof Range Rover vehicle, which cost, that is a mistake, there's the professional error there, $298,000. 2, that the vehicle arrived late and could not be used for the purpose for which it was ordered, that the vehicle arrived in September 2015. 3, that the vehicle had to be consigned to Larry Shutu Group, a car dealer, for the sale, that he was not approached by Senator Bukar Saraki or the National Assembly to import the bulletproof Range Rover. 5, that the car in question was imported by himself for various uses and was cleared by the company Ismark Incorporation USA and delivered to him. That the car was cleared not with National Assembly documents. 7, that he was surprised at the turn of events because the dealer sold the car in December 2015 to National Assembly, and the car has been in use since that time in Lagos, liaison office of the National Assembly. 8, that all these stories being told emanated from the time the car was being driven from Lagos to Abuja, where it was intercepted by men of the Nigerian Customs, who demanded for the car documents, which were not in the position of the driver. And 9, that the entire episode was being wrongly presented by the press. 4, the car dealer, Mr. Lole Shitu. Speaking to the committee, the dealer, Mr. Lole Shitu, stated, 1, that the bulletproof Range Rover car that was consigned to him by the importer, Mr. Tokumbo Akindele, to sell was a vehicle already cleared and did not need further documentary clearance. 2, that he sold the car to the National Assembly in December 2015 at 62.5 million naira only. 3, that the car had been in use by the National Assembly in Lagos since he sold it. And 4, that there was no problem with the vehicle until it was being moved from Lagos to Abuja when the men of Nigerian Customs intercepted it. That at that time, the driver did not have the papers of the car in his possession. And 5, that he was not contracted by the Senate President and National Assembly to import the car. That he only sold it to the National Assembly as an SUV fully cleared, that he no longer needed. 4.5, the Chairman Senate Services, Senator Ibrahim Gobre, testifying, Senator Ibrahim stated that the National Assembly does not import cars. It only buys from dealers. And after carefully examining the documents available and hearing out of the matter, the committee observed as follows. 1. Sorry, I got the wrong one. No, don't worry. 4.5, yes. 4.6. Senator Junior Melaya. 4.5, that he did not import or buy any car in the name of the Senate President or for him. That's 2. 4.6, Senator Junior Melaya. Testifying, Senator Junior Melaya stated that he graduated from Ahmad Bello University, Zaria, with a third-class degree in year 2000. 2, that he passed all his courses and was given a statement of result, which he presented to the committee. 3, that he also served and was issued a National Youth Service Corps certificate. He presented this with other documents to members of the committee for examination. 4, that he was yet to collect the original certificate of his degree. And that 5, that he changed his name from Daniel Jonah Melaye to Dino Melaye because it was already being popularly referred to as Dino Melaye, and provided evidence of change of name. 4.7, the Vice Chancellor, Ahmad Bello University, Zaria, Professor Ibrahim Gaba. The Vice Chancellor, Ahmad Bello University, Zaria, Professor Ibrahim Gaba, testified concerning Senator Dino Melaye as follows. 1, that Senator Dino Melaye, who was known at that time as Daniel Jonah Melaye, was admitted and graduated from the Ahmad Bello University. 2, that he passed all his courses and graduated on February 3, 2000. After carefully studying documents available and hearing out the matter, the committee observed as follows. 1. That the name of the Senate President, Senator Dr. Bukola Saraki, was not mentioned anywhere in the bill of lading or any document whatsoever connected with the importation or purchase of the SUV Range Rover vehicle. 2. That he did not import any SUV Range Rover vehicle as corroborated by all respondents. 3. That this story was cooked up with intent to embarrass the Senate President, the Senate, and by extension the National Assembly. 4. That the complainant did not conduct due diligence before bringing the matter to the floor of the Senate. 5. That as a former Senate leader and a ranking senator, he was expected to have weighed the consequences of this allegation, carefully investigated before presenting it. 6. That Senator Dino Melaye obtained a first degree in geography from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. And 7. That having failed to cross-check facts before presented at the plenary, he could not be said to be a patriotic representative of the Senate and should be penalized to serve as a deterrent to others. Recommendations. After due consideration of the matter, as revealed by different parties to the case, the committee recommends as follows. 1. That the Senate do suspend Senator Mohammed Ali Dume from bringing Senator Dino Melaye and his colleague and institution of the Senate to unbearable disrespect at this time of our national life, when caution, patriotism, careful concentration, and due diligence should be our watchwords. 2. The suspension is with effect from today, 29th March 2017, to last for 181 legislative days. So that 28th March is a typical error. It's 29th March. And I want to say, Mr. President, that this copy I have here, because we're trying to photocopy, I have 7 members signed. The Vice Chairman, Senator Bala Nala, is a party to the matter because his name was mentioned in the paper that was brought up this issue. So we absented him from signing this document. Of course, Senator Dino Melaye was the person that was alleged, and then he couldn't sign this document. We have only 3 members. Senator Shitu Mohammed is not in town, is out of the country. Then, of course, Senator Omogongwa is out of the country, out of the state. Then it's only Senator Binta and Omogege that are not presently here. So the 2/3 majority, more than 2/3 majority of the committee signed this document. Thank you, Mr. President.
What of Peter Mobus? Peter, did you sign?
Yes, he signed.
Yes, I'm surprised I signed. Do I sign in front of you now?
And Rasodura, did you sign as well? Okay.
Please, excuse me, please. Those that signed, Mr. President, Senator Yanwo, the chairman of the committee, signed. Senator Obinna Ogba, member, signed. Senator Jeremiah Oseni, member, signed. Senator Omotayo Oladoshola, member, signed. Senator Peter Wabosh, member, signed. Senator Matthew Origide, member, signed. Senator Mauro A. Ohabuma, member, signed. These are the original copies. But what will happen because the photocopies...
Is that the same thing as the one you laid? Yes. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so Secretary, take notes. All right, distinguished colleagues, you've listened to Senator Anyanwu with his presentation. I don't know if anybody wants to make any comment before we go to the recommendations. Yes, Lindani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani. I represent Gombe South. I thought that the basis of this report is the allegations against the Senate President and Dino Melaye. And that should have been the first recommendation. If from the findings we find that they did not commit any wrong, the first recommendation would be that they are cleared of any wrongdoing in this matter before any other consequential issues are considered. So that is my suggestion, that first of all, let us establish that they did not commit any wrong based on the allegations that were made against them. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Francis.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Francis Salimikena, representing the good people of Edo North. Mr. President, I don't doubt what the chairman of the committee have said. I want us to, if we can make a photocopy of that page where they does and retrieve this one, because this one could be taken to anywhere now to say these are the people that signed. So if we can make a photocopy of that signed one and retrieve this one that is given to us, it will serve, because this one is just like the one we sent to the president during the time of confirmation of this the SGF, when they say only 3 people signed and the rest, whereas those who signed were in that paper that he presented to us. So where we could order the chairman to make a photocopy of the signed one to replace this other one that were not completed, because it was not properly done this way.
Okay, just the last page. So you can make additional copies of the last page and then supply to our colleagues. Senator Opuzodima.
Actually, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Hope Uzodimma. Actually, what the Deputy Whip said was what I was trying to raise. So we can withdraw from circulation the unsigned copies to avoid the reputation of what happened to Sheikh Hussaini's report. Again, following from Senator Ladani's contribution, if we can adopt in sequence inclusion or to exonerate the President of the Senate and Mr. Dino Menaya from the insinuations of the media for the alleged offense. Let us first of all establish that the committee has investigated the matter. They've invited all the various parties, contributions has been made, and they come to the conclusion that the Senate President was not involved in the importation of this vehicle in question and did not participate, and the vehicle was not imported in his name, that is property of Federal National Assembly, indeed the Senate, since 2015. And then that Senator Dino Menaya, after investigation, it was confirmed that he graduated from Ahmad Bello University, Zaria. Then we can come with the consequential orders later. That is my contribution.
All right, we'll deal with that when we get to the recommendation, but I suggest to the chairman to prepare those amendments to the recommendations. So by the time we get there, we're able to take it. Senator Jubril.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barrow Jubril. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, this assembly is the highest assembly in this country. Assembly that comprises of men and women of wisdom chosen by our people to represent them. So I think it's always good, whatever we do here, we should always view this. Going to frivolous issues shouldn't be what we should be doing here. If someone sees allegations against anybody in the social media network or any frivolous, trivial allegation, I think it's quite improper to bring that accusation or allegation to the floor of the Senate, thereby wasting the time of this august assembly. It's quite improper. And I hope this kind of issue will not occur again. How do you just go to social media and pick something and then come to the Senate and begin to waste our time here? When we have a lot of issues, we want to build this country. We are lacking. Our educational system is suffering. Our economy is suffering. Everything is suffering. We need to be serious here. Was it not in social media that they said our president was dead the other time? Showing the same lies against him. Don't you take that seriously? I mean, I was really disappointed. It's not something we should even discuss here. If somebody is not, maybe is not qualified and was elected, go to court. Let his constitution go to court. If somebody steals something, take him to court. Why do you bring him? Are we caught? Are we caught here to come and waste our time? When there are serious issues before us? So I think this should stop. This should never happen again. Nobody should bring this kind of frivolous issue to the floor of this Senate. This is a serious Senate. Nigeria is a giant of Africa, the largest black country in the whole world, and this is #1 assembly in the country. So I think enough is enough. Enough is enough. So, and I commend the committee for doing a thorough job by exonerating these people, because everything is there. We've seen all. It's something that we knew even before it was done. And please, nobody should bring this kind of frivolous issue to the floor of the Senate any longer. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Senator, you are raising your hands.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to add my voice to what Senator Jibrin has just said. If the person who brought this issue to the Senate was maybe an outsider, maybe one of the people in the streets, it would have been a different matter. But it is very disappointing and disheartening to know that the person who brought this matter is a ranking member of this Senate, a former leader. And let me give you an example, Mr. President. When I was a speaker of Akwa Ibom State, one reporter from Tell magazine came to me and said that there is insinuation all over the street that the degree I have is Toronto, so to speak. And I told him, I said, well, if you believe that, you can send a petition to the House of Assembly, or I gave him the website of University of Houston that I attended. And that solved the problem. It wasn't a matter that had to be brought to the House of Assembly. It was, as the Senator Jibrin has said, a very ridiculous minor matter to bring to a serious assembly like this. So I want to caution, sir, to advise, rather, let me use the word advise, that we are here for serious business, to look after the welfare of Nigerians, and an issue as frivolous as this should not be raised in this chamber anymore. With that, I want to support the work of this committee and to commend them for a job well done. Thank you.
Senator Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Relying on things that are said in social media and also in newspapers without critically looking at the issues and discussing with the people that are concerned certainly is a matter that we need to look at it once again. Since we are discussing this issue, Senator Alin Dume, who made these allegations based on newspaper, based on social media, because I don't think I have seen it, I don't think he has presented a newspaper, but on a social media aspect of it. I was one of those who signed for the withdrawal of Alin Dume. Dino can contest to that. And I did that with full aspect of my conscience, because we are almost 60 years and above people here, and we are going to use our conscience to judge between what is right and what is wrong. Secondly, sir, we are guided people. We are Muslims and Christians here. The Quran has given the guidance on the Muslims, and the Bible has given guidance on the Christians. To do what? To do what is right and forestall what is wrong. Certainly from the investigation that is conducted, a wrong has been done to the Senate President. A wrong has been done to my nephew here, because he called me Kau. Wrong has been done. And to the Senate. But I am always in principle against suspension. Because of what? One, what do we do with the people of Southern Borno who are not going to be represented? What are we going to do with them? They must be represented. So whether what they have is a right person or a wrong person, by the grace of God, he is senator here. And all of us here are, by grace of God, we are senators, not by anybody. The Senate President is by the grace of God, not by the grace of APC or grace of PDP. Therefore, working on that, I would suggest, although when we come to recommendation, I will say something on that, but let me say it finally, so that if my colleagues look at it once again, when it comes to the recommendation, they can support or reject it. Senator Alindume, from my own interactions, has been the first offender in this aspect. He has not done that before. And he totally, in the papers I read, he said he relied on what the papers say. And now that it has been proven wrong, he is satisfied with the investigation. So my suggestion is for the Senate to ask Alindume or Senator Alindume to come publicly at the plenary and apologize to the Senate President, and to Senator Dino Melai. Secondly, if we feel very, very strong, let us suspend him from committees. He can make his own people's representation, but he can be suspended from the committees. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I say this with all sense of responsibility. There are so many of us who refused to sign when they wanted Alindume removed, but I signed because of my conscience. So I will say my conscience in clear terms. I believe the people of Southern Borno will not forgive us for suspending their representation. And secondly, as a first offender, I think we should look at it with all dispassionate. Thirdly, it's God that gives power to. Maybe, he was Senate leader in December until when he was removed. So his time was up. And when the time is up for Mr. President, Senate President, he will go. So whatever we are doing here, we should be guided with the principles of law and the principle of ethics of our religions. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you for that intervention. Any other person before we go to the intervention? Yes, Kofi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Omar Kuripi, representing Katsina Center. Mr. Chairman, I all agree with previous speakers, but I'm inclined to say this. We are all human beings. We all make mistakes. All of us here, we do make mistakes. This is a person now who has been a ranking member. He was in the House of Rep for 2 terms. He was here, now this is the 2nd term. I am not saying he's not guilty, he's quite all right guilty. But we should learn that if we don't forgive, we are going to have a problem. Because forgiveness is a genuine sin. Without forgiveness, there can be no future anywhere. We should learn to forgive. What I am saying, Mr. Chairman, if now this man can show any remorse, we can simply either step down the punishment, reduce it, or we will be even consider it. Because we are all human beings. He was a leader and he was just removed. Everybody who was removed will feel it. We are human. If now it is human, we can't deceive ourselves. We are all human beings. If you are offended, I will feel it. So does this sin now has been it's not like, but this sin now is bothering him. So what he did, maybe he did out of frustration. He's human being. Maybe he lost temper or he lost something, or maybe he feels that it's only he can do this to retaliate or say this.
If this man can shy from the most, this is my distinguished colleagues, if you relax this, we either reduce it or even if possible forgive it. This is my submission, sir.
Sir Batu. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, ordinarily I wouldn't have bothered to make some comments about the recommendation that have been made by my committee. It took us time at the committee level to look at all the issues that were raised. But I want to say that mistakenly, this recommendation has been made. I draw attention to the particular area that has to do with recommendation. And of course, inspiration from the point that says that certain measures be taken that will serve as a deterrent to others whom I want to contemplate misdemeanor in the future. The Senate is an institution, no doubt about that. And then, of course, all of us have sworn to jealously guide this institution and guide ourselves. Mr. President, some of my colleagues have said to err is human and to forgive is divine. But others who have the school of thought that appropriate punishment be meted out, and they have recommended a period here. The point I want to plead for, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, is the one that has to do, yes, with the recommendation too. Mr. President, it has been suggested here that 181 days. Of course, we know that one is a calendar year. Having to suspend Senator Ndume for 181 days, which is 1 year, I think is too long. I want to plead that this be reduced to at least 6 months, half of this period, during which time, of course, all the desired effects that will be required, all the objectives that were set out that this punishment is supposed to achieve, of course, would have been achieved. So I plead, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that this suspension period be reduced from the 1 year that is suggested here to 6 months. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Okay, maybe we should go to the prayers. So if you have any further amendment to the prayers, to the recommendation, we can take that. Senator Anyang, you're supposed to propose amendment to the recommendations.
Mr. President, Mr. colleagues, recommendation, this one is supposed to be number 1, the other ones 2 and 3. Having been properly cleared of any wrongdoing by the findings of the committee, the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, and Senator Dino Maleye, I hereby formally cleared of the allegations made against them. Exonerated.
Any second in the... Yes, sir, Oba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Senator Odin Oba, I rise to second the motion raised by my chairman, Senator Sam Anyanwu, that the Senate President, Senator Bukola Saraki, and distinguished Senator Dino Malaya, being person accused, has been exonerated by the committee. I so second.
Those in support of the recommendation 1, as proposed, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that the Senate do suspend Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume for bringing Senator Dino Malaya and his colleague and the institution of the Senate to unbearable disrepute at this time of our national life, when caution, patriotism, careful consideration, and due diligence should be our watchwords. Amendment, yes. Senator Lidani.
I propose, my name is Joshua Lidani, representing Gombe South. I propose that in place of suspension for 181 days. Oh, okay. Okay.
Maybe after the third one.
Yeah, in place of suspension, I will suggest that one, he should be issued a warning, and two, that he should tender unreserved apology to the Senate, failing which then we impose suspension on him.
Anybody seconding that amendment? Yes, distinguished senator.
Thank you very much, the Senate President. I stand up in line because when you are about to suspend Senator Dume, actually I did not sign because I thought he's supposed to be called to be confronted with what it is.
No, there is a motion.
The motion.
There is a motion.
Are you seconding the amendment? Put on your microphone and second the amendment if you want.
Say you second it.
Well, I second the amendment because I can't see why it should be suspended because there are other.
Just say you have
suspended.
Now let me put the question in regard to the amendment. Those in support of the amendment as proposed, say aye. Those against, say nay. The nays have it. So I now put the question in regard to the second recommendation. Those in support of the recommendation that the Senate do suspend Senator Mohamed Ali Dume for bringing Senator Dino Malaye, his colleague, and the institution of Senate to unbearable disrepute at the time of our national life, when caution, patriotism, careful consideration, and due diligence should be our watchwords. Those in support of this recommendation say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 3. The suspension is with effect from today, 29th of March 2017, to last for 181 legislative days. Any further amendment? Yes. Matthew.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I've asked for an amendment, to this recommendation that instead of 181 days to 1 year, be reduced to 6 months. I so move.
Senator Obasan, are you seconding it?
Yes, Mr. President, my names are Senator Peter Womboshi. Mr. President, I'm supporting this, but I want to give reasons, sir. Why I'm supporting this, I want to say that this is, why I'm seconding this, I want to make this point, that Senator Ndume is not just a first offender. We took a decision on the Secretary of Government. He went outside and maligned the Senate. We took a first decision when we came here in our executive section. I want the records to be put. When the report of the DSS was read, he rose here and started begging all of us that please, we should send this letter back, we should send Magu back and to the president for president to take a decision on him. He was begging everybody here. And out of respect for him, as a leader at that time, the Senate obliged him. And now, after that, he went out to malign the Senate. But he did not tell the public, he did not tell Nigerian people that he was the person who begged us, who pleaded with us. And he even went further and said, we should invite Magu here and tell him why we cannot. But Nigerian people don't understand. He's moving as a saint. But
distinguished, I think if you have seconded because we need to close at 2 o'clock because there was no extension of time.
Tenor be reduced to 6. His suspension be reduced to 6 months.
Distinguished colleagues, those in support of recommendation 3, that the suspension be for a period of 6 months, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Well, thank you very distinguished colleagues. I believe that lesson has been learned from this, and that going forward, we'll try as much as possible to investigate matters before we allege them or we call the attention of the Senate all the country to those facts. So I do believe that the committee have done a good job. You've been commended earlier. I would like to join others in commending you for the good job you are doing. And regarding this, I think that it was also good that you concluded the investigation within the period given to you. So once more, I'd like to thank you for a good job, and we look forward to a more united Senate. So in spite of all that has happened, so we call on everybody, for all of us to work together in the best interest of this country. Thank you. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that we step down all other items on the order paper till another legislative day.
Minority.
Mr. President, I rise to second that we step down one item on the order paper till another legislative day. I so second.
Yeah, colleagues, those in support of the motion that will stand down the remaining items to another legislative day, say aye. Those against saying the ayes have it. Senate is hereby accordingly adjourned to Thursday, the 30th day of March 2017 at 10 a.m. prompt. Senate is accordingly adjourned.